I'm going to say no. Like, I'll walk into your conference room, I'm going to interrupt your meeting, and I'm going to sit down and say, hey, we need this update. What is the status of these things? They could have literally given an offer that you thought was meant for you to another candidate, and that candidate either doesn't accept, they disappear to the wind, or they accept and then they don't show up on the first day. It's always been incredibly rare, not in a good way, in some of the companies I've worked at.
What's going on, you guys? Today, I got the super cool opportunity to interview Colin Rocker, who is a first generation professional, former Deloitte consultant, and all around this cool guy. He has around 500,000 followers on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and he also just has an amazing journey that I want to share with you guys. So without further ado, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Hey guys, I'm with
Career Colin or Colin Rocker.
Colin. Can you tell me a bit more about who you are?
Of course. So I am a first generation professional first and foremost, meaning that no one in my family had ever worked a corporate job. And so throughout my career journey, I shared my story online and on social media. And now I built this entire platform where I can equip, uplift, and inspire other first gen professionals like me.
Amazing. So tell me about what is the building block? What is the cornerstone to being successful in today's career?
I think first and foremost, it's the mindset hack of realizing that no one will care about your career more than you. And so it's really about making sure you understand that you have to keep it and put your career in your own hands in terms of how you go about your success. No one's going to give it to you. However, you have to also understand that, especially in today's working paradigm, relationships and actually getting to know people and getting champions and people who can stick by you and stand by your work is a cheat code. And that's how you can skip the line and get promoted faster and larger than some of your peers.
So I'm also curious to know, you went to the University of Georgia, which would you say that's a non-target or target school?
I would say it's a non-target target. So I'll call it a soft target of the big four and an absolute non-target for some of the more competitive consulting.
So almost like some dog food right there. If people aren't coming to your school as much, you're good at non-target school. What are the things you need to be doing to be successful in today's government economy?
I think one of the ways certainly that I've stood out at work, and one of the ways that a young person without a bunch of hard skills necessarily can stand out, is if you don't have a lot of community at work, you can be the one to create it. Coming up with ideas to meet up outside of work, coming up with service opportunities, or coming up with pro bono opportunities to use your professional skill set in a new context for like category of people that may be in need, coming up with unique ways to bring together, seen as that person turns you into a conduit or a superconductor inside your organization. Now, and I've definitely experienced this firsthand, people will then come to you because of who you know, gives you a type of capital that you can't get with a degree or a skill set.
We do have to have some technical difficulties here because my shoulder was just going through it. But Colin, I also wanted to follow up to the previous question you asked around identifying what career is right for you. And so what should students identify with themselves to find out if a career consulting is for them?
It's from a professional perspective, it has to start from within. And so you have to figure out who you are. And a good way to do that is like so many personality tests, like Myers-Briggs, like the Enneagram, like the Big Five. And so once you get a baseline understanding of the groupings of your personality traits and what that may mean for who you act in any given situation, there are related careers that people with certain traits do better in. And so if you identify certain traits and careers that people with those traits find success in, then you find the people with those traits in those career paths, right? And then it's as simple as meeting them when you can, either when they come to campus or sending the messages on LinkedIn, though I know that can be a grind and people don't reach out back like they used to. Once you figure out where you want to head, it's as simple as working backwards. And so if you identify a career path because of the people you've spoken to with the traits that you yourself share, then it's about saying, where did they go to school? What did they study? What were their first sort of jobs? What skill sets did they learn? And sort of doing that 4, 5, 6, 18 times until you have a model that you can then run in your own life. And that's literally what I did. Certainly like that's how I got my first couple jobs in consulting. I think success leaves clues. And so if you see someone who looks like you and is doing work that you want to do, look at what they're doing and then just follow it. You'll add your own flavor organically to what they're doing. But if not, it can sort of feel like you're banging your head against the wall because you don't know what to do next. Right?
For me, especially, I also want to ask you about understanding yourself in this process. Let's say you're a really ambitious student. You've gone through all the internships, you've gone through all the case interviews, then you don't land that final. What's your take to pick yourself up, revitalize yourself, and just understand how to get going if you still have the goal of getting into that firm?
Well, it's important to understand that you are not the company you work for, you're not your job title, you're certainly not your degree. And so I would say that, first of all, don't identify yourself that way. However, the one tactic that I have seen be moderately successful, if you are necessarily dead set on a specific company or a specific firm, is people renege, people move, people decide they want to be a Himalayan monk and they don't want to work anymore, right? And so all sorts of things happen. And so I would say, like, at the end of your recruitment season, just send an email out literally to every recruiter you talk to that's in the vein of like, hey, just so you know, I am still looking for opportunities, and if you have any open positions, because again, they could have literally given an offer that you thought was meant for you to another candidate, and that candidate either doesn't accept, they disappear to the wind, or they accept and then they don't show up on the first day. And so I've literally seen that happen just because you were the last person that emailed that recruiter. That job can fall on your lap.
I think for me, it's playing into the framework of people, not really being able to be yourself. How important it is to feel like is to firstly utilize your strengths, but also being willing to assimilate.
It's a really good question. I think first-gen professionals have a uniquely difficult challenge, because I definitely saw this in my own life, where I almost felt like I was on this scale where like more successful I became in my career, the less connected I felt to like certain communities that I would identify as myself being a part of, right? Because there weren't a lot of people, there was no one in my analyst class, certainly further on in some of the companies I worked at, that looked like me. And I've always been incredibly rare, not in a good way, in some of the companies I've worked at, some of the functions I've done inside those companies. One thing that's been amazing though is I have an incredibly good community of friends that I all made back in college, that we all work in different companies. There are like 4 different industries represented. I've got venture capital, Harvard MBAs, product management, consulting, Wall Street finance, and just a group of incredibly like successful, smart dudes. But to me, kind of puts a little light back into my life, if that makes sense. So sometimes your work community can exist outside of your specific company.
Just being first-generation professional like yourself, to be in the space, and it's like onto the same experience, like not just consulting, but white collar job for me. So I want
to dirt on it.
Yes, of course. You're curious to know for yourself. You're an ambitious first-generation professional, but you just don't know where to start. What are some good ways to firstly figure out what you want to do with your career, but also figure out, niches, what you really are passionate about?
It's a good question. Probably worth more thought from me. I haven't really thought about that. Everyone comes to me and they always say like, I want to be a banker, consultant, manager. And so like I always have these well-worn strategies for those paths. Probably a framework sitting in here somewhere, but I think it really goes back to the advice I gave earlier of like model for yourself, of like people that have found success in this career path, what have they done and how can I model that in my own life? But also it's about looking at yourself and saying, based on where you came from and your attitude towards work, how can I add something to this role that is different or that hasn't been seen before, that is uniquely ownable by me. So one of the ways I did this in my own career is early on when I was in consulting, I was essentially a program manager, and we had like 15 or so floors in our client's office. And so one of the ways I distinguished myself was literally to get my updates into my slides that I had to then present to the client. I was literally very like in people's faces and just like upstairs and taking the elevators and doing whatever I had to do in order to make sure I got the most up-to-date updates quicker than any of the other analysts that were just sending like emails and stuff like that, right? Like I'm going to say no, like I walk into your conference room, I'm going to interrupt your meeting, and I'm going to sit down and say, hey, we need this update. What is the status of these things? And so something like that, whereas I don't have the same or thing that would prevent me from doing that as maybe some of the other people on my team, I can take a class for that, right? But that's something that's uniquely ownable that I literally gained a reputation for. If you don't know where to start, think about what you could do, again, based on those traits and based on what you know about yourself, model success for it, and then figure out, okay, if you are a first-gen professional, what level of grit, perspective, or you can bring to that field.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys like more content like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Additionally, if there's any more content you guys want to see in the future, let me know down below. But as always, y'all take care and have a good one.